Hey, morning, everyone. So good to see you guys again. And so I hope you still have yesterday's handout, right? So we still have two more PowerPoint slides to go through, and then we still need the supplementary handout because we'll use that for a task. Right? And let me scroll to the slide. Right. So before we end the section yesterday, right, we actually talked about the structure of an academic text, and then we ended like here, like the conclusion. Right? We should have a thesis statement that is like paraphrasing the one you had in the introduction. Yeah. And I think we have mentioned this one. The answer is D. Like it is vital, right, to reinforce the author believes this is important, right? So D is the answer, and we haven't done this yet. So to give you a chance to get another round of correct answers, yesterday we tried to rearrange the sentence order in an introduction. This time is for a conclusion. I hope this is simpler because there are only 4 sentences, right? And can you put down like your numbers here in the box. So if you think the order is like, I don't know, 2143, then write this down. So this conclusion is actually related to that introduction. So if you forgot the thesis statement, at least you can take a look at that introduction. So maybe in your group, you hear all different answers. I didn't expect that. But at least I guess the first sentence should be easier to be identified, right? Because you remember in the conclusion, we should start with what? Yes, the restated thesis statement. And which one is it? The last one. Yeah, so you would definitely put down one here, right? If we start with this one. And yeah, let's see the actual order. So this is the restated thesis statement. This essay, instead of saying argues, it's nice to change it to perfect tense because you have finished the whole paper, has argued that, and this is the author's view, a cognitive linguistic perspective is more effective. Yeah, so this is the stance, right, of the writer. And the next one, moving up, right? So by studying spatial relationships, students appear to remember prepositions more accurately. So it's like explaining why cognitive linguistic perspective, right, is the one the author thinks would be better. And then next one, okay, that is spatial relationships. However, right, you see the word however, there must be something mentioned before that is different from, some ideas that are different. So here they try to say, even though there are all sorts of benefits, okay, we acknowledge it's not completely effective. And then that's why, nevertheless, it's still the most useful one so far, appears to be useful for many students. You see the word appears to be. We're not saying it's like definitely useful because there are limitations. Right? But then at the end of the day, it's at least the best so far, right, according to the writer. And it is recommended. You see the final word, it is recommended. It must be at the end because you're trying to like sum up everything and then propose what's next. What's the next step? And what should people take away from this paper? And so the order should be 4, 3, 2, 1, okay, in your original version. And you can use this as the order. Particularly pay attention to the words in red. And so restated thesis and then restate main points. And the second one is like summary, a short summary of your main arguments. And then a little bit of limitations, right, to make your stance sound critical, like acknowledge counterarguments, limitations. And finally, link it to something broad, something general. It can be prediction, or some people will mention what other researchers can do next. And so maybe I haven't done that here. You can do that, right, if you're interested. And since you have some ideas of what you should put down in each section, why don't we look at a full text? And this will be a very exciting task. So far, according to my experience, 98% of groups cannot get everything correct. And so I hope you can break the record to make it like 98% can get it correct, right? So, or even more. So from a group with, I said 5 to 6, just as many as you want to. I mean, not too many, not the whole class, right? But around 5 to 6. The reason is you're going to arrange my given 6 paragraphs in a coherent order. When there are 6 paragraphs, right, and then you have 6 students in your group, then you have like a relatively even division of labor, right? So of course you can still form a group in like groups of 4, and then maybe 2 students read 1 more paragraph. It's still fine. Okay, so or 3 students, then each student read 2 paragraphs. Right? So make your decision. Take out the handout from yesterday, the supplementary handout. Activity 5. You will see the title, a full text. And then this is a sample essay. Title is Pros and Cons of Becoming Professional Esports Gamers. Esports is like online, electronic. Yeah. And then B would be, this part is B, all right? And then this part is D, C, and then next page, we still have, A, E, F. Yeah, and that is why altogether 6 paragraphs in this essay. And the thing is, A, B, C, D, E, F, you don't know the exact order, right? Then you have to talk to your group members to arrange. So I think my paragraph, maybe I'm responsible for B, should be the end of the essay, or should be one of the body paragraphs, or should be the introduction. You tell your classmates. And then within each of them, within B, within D, within C, the sentences are in a wrong order. You see what I mean? So it's not just like arranging A, B, C, D, E, F. It's arranging, B, like every sentence as well. You know how tricky it is. That's why if you form a bigger group, like 6 students, and you can just focus on your section. And if you are in a smaller group, then you will need to read more. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I didn't ask you to form groups yesterday because maybe some students would be sitting differently. So now you form groups and it's easier to arrange. Okay, so feel free to move your chairs slightly. Maybe you can find it easier to talk to your classmates. And yeah, decide who would read which part. Sorry to interrupt a second. This is the way how you present your answer to me. Of course, after your discussion, you would decide which letter first, right? And then within the letter, within like A, B, C, D, E, F, how the sentences are arranged. Okay, so if you have finished something and you want me to have a look first, I can do it. Like just now, help one group right, to decide, okay, the letter sequence is all correct, but then within the section, some are correct, some are not, and you can focus on those sections. Right? So if you finish some, you can raise your hands, right, and I'll come over. It seems that from my experience of working around different groups, B is the trickiest. And so far, not no one group got B all correct. Boy, I mean B for Bravo. Yeah. So spend more time on both. I give you a tip. I heard many groups start with B1. B1 starting with B1 is not correct. Like, not starting with B1. Yeah, the first one is not B1. So after revision once, one group got all correct. That's really good. Please continue to do it. I hope more groups can get all correct. So far, two groups got all correct. But then I think most groups got like at least half like correct. And then maybe I give you guys 3 more minutes. I have your final try, and then I'll show you the answers. But for those who already get things done, I look at the correct parts and highlight the connecting words. What makes this the correct sequence? I try to understand that. We'll talk about that in 3 minutes. 3 more minutes for your discussion. Okay. So I think after this exercise, you will find okay, academic writing can be challenging, but then there are rules, there are patterns and words you can follow. First, let me use another slide to show you the correct sequence. For those who haven't got all correct, you may jot down the answers. So actually, this is a 6 paragraph structure. Introduction, 2 body paragraphs on the benefits, 2 body paragraphs on the other side, and then conclusion. Okay. Yeah, I will analyze each paragraph with you together. Okay. So let's look at the tricky introduction together. I think this is a little tricky because there are 6 sentences, right? So there are more things to deal with. But then the organization is actually like this, right? This is how, after being arranged, the introduction is like. Okay, so I didn't, of course, put it in the handout because I'm showing you the answers, right? But if you want to, feel free to take a photo, right, of the complete version of the paragraphs. Right, and then this is the introduction. And the introduction, just like what we talked about, everything we talked about yesterday, starting with the background information. And so what happened, like for the 20th anniversary, when the event took place, some background details, and then how it was like an important form of competition. And then the most important sentence would be the end of the introduction. That is the thesis statement. Starting from although the esports industry looks glamorous, meaning although it looks good, the question of whether or not to become professional gamers remains. So it highlights it is controversial, right? So that is how you want to present. This is a very critical topic, a controversial topic. And then this essay will analyze. So this is the preview, right? Telling how you're going to organize your paragraphs in the following. We'll analyze the benefits and drawbacks from the following 4 aspects. And these 4 terms actually signal the flow of the coming body paragraphs. So if you follow these 4 terms, you will be able to identify the coming 4 letters easier. Right, so this is how you write the thesis statement. Put it in brief forms, but then give details. So the 4 aspects are substantial monetary rewards. Right, it would be reflected in the next body paragraph. And then faster decision-making ability. And then concerns over physical health. And then negative effects on social life. I will later then show you exactly. So we have these 4 aspects, but you don't want to repeat the wording directly in the body paragraphs. So we'll see how people write them in slightly different way, but then still referring to maybe social life, right, or decision making. And so remember, the first point is about substantial monetary rewards, right? This is the first point, meaning this is a benefit. Substantial is another good word you can learn, right? We talk about a large number, a large amount. And so substantial also means large, right? But then an academic word. So the topic sentence and the concluding sentence, you can find hints about money, right? So the first sentence is the most promising aspect is monetary incentives. And this is a clear topic sentence, right, showing that this is a good thing, because the word promising, we don't want to use the word good. Right? Good is subjective and a bit vague. And then promising shows something positive. And then the concluding sentence, one thing I don't like is the use of a lot of, okay, but then you can change it to something different. This shows that, but the phrase this shows that is clear. Okay? This shows that famous esports gamers may earn, maybe you can write a large amount of money, right? And then in the middle would be the examples, right? Different people earning like a large sum of money. Right, so the body paragraph is always topic sentence, supporting materials, concluding sentence. Right? We actually call that like a hamburger, right? The 2 pieces of bread, and then the middle part, feel free to add as much as you can. And then next body paragraph, like facilitating decision making among gamers is viewed as, a very important word here is another. So you would know it's definitely not the first body paragraph, because it must be following one benefit that is already mentioned, right? Viewed as another benefit associated with esports, right? And this one clearly about decision making. Let's take a look at the concluding sentence. Esports may allow its players to develop cognitive ability in decision making and problem solving. And so it's like wrapping up again, and referring to the whole idea about cognition, about how people think. And then when they cite sources, of course, it's not a super proper citation format, right? So they mention maybe a research study, actually the year and the author's name is needed, right? But then you also know they use terms like findings from another study, right? Third body paragraph, a super important word would be although. Yes, very good. Then you know, like benefits must be mentioned before this paragraph, right? And then this would be about drawbacks. Yeah. So although the benefits of being esports gamers seem attractive, do you see the word like seem? Right? We don't want to say it's like very attractive. Maybe some people don't find it very attractive. Like you are rich, you don't find that kind of money is like a lot. Right? So the drawbacks of esports, especially the one relating to physical health, cannot be overlooked. Then you know this paragraph is not just about any drawbacks. It's about drawback related to physical health. Right? So you have to mention that clearly in the topic sentence. Yeah. And then concluding sentence, you also see the keyword physical health. Yeah, gamers' physical health would therefore, so sometimes we can put therefore in the middle, or you start with therefore, right, would therefore be affected by participating in esports. So the sentence structure looks a bit different, but the meaning is exactly the same. And then within the paragraph, you see phrases like even worse. So it's like having one bad thing and then even worse. So these are some linking words that you can learn about. And then last body paragraph, what is the key phrase that you can find? Like at the beginning? Exactly. In addition to. Yeah, so it is obviously linked with the previous paragraph on physical health. Yeah, so in addition to physical health. And then this time, okay, they use the phrase, it appears that, meaning it seems that. Again, making the tone less strong. It appears that gamers' social life would be affected. So the key term social life is reflected, right, as early as in the topic sentence. And then showing you what happens in the social life in detail. Then at the end, the concluding sentence, right? So apart from using therefore or consequently, in other words, can mean like, okay, now I wrap up by using a shorter version. Okay, so in other words, esports are likely, see the word, are likely, yeah, making it less strong again, to bring some negative effects on gamers' social life. So always in the topic sentence and the concluding sentence, you will see the key term. That means if your readers skip the middle part, they can still know what this paragraph is about. And then finally, the conclusion. In short, you see this phrase is a very common wording for conclusion. We have many more, like to conclude, to sum up, in conclusion, right? So in short, it's just one of them. It is beyond doubt that the esports industry is rapidly expanding, but there is no indication whether becoming the gamers is an appropriate choice. I won't use the word good or bad. I would say maybe it's appropriate or not. Right, so this is restated thesis. Responding to, still remember the introduction, saying the question remains. Right, so that is to wrap up right, on the author's viewpoint. And then the blue part here, I make it blue, is the summary of 4 ideas. Right? So you have 4 body paragraphs, meaning you have 4 arguments. They use here 2 sentences to sum up the 4 things. Professional esports gamers, on the one hand, may earn more money and make decisions faster. Still remember that, right? Body paragraph 1, making money, decision making in body paragraph 2. And then on the other hand, meaning talking about body paragraph 3 and 4, they may put their health and social life at risk. Right? So this is what we call a summary. And in the conclusion, you don't need to give any details. Like one thing I want to mention here, like I think some students may misuse on the one hand and on the other hand. They think it's just another way of saying, like, especially for on the other hand, right? It's like moreover, right? When I want to talk something more. But actually, on the other hand, must be used when you talk about something contrasting. Right? So it's not like another point and say, oh, on the other hand, it's not just another perspective. It must be something different. Okay, so when you use on the other hand, it is totally different side. And then lastly, therefore, okay, it would be the final remark. Final remark meaning you can make recommendations, or predictions, or advice. Yes, any suggestions, anything. Like here, it would be giving suggestion. Yeah, so it is better for them to think twice. Usually something rather thick. Okay, so you can say something pretty general here. Don't add new things in the conclusion. Okay, just wrap up what you're saying. Right, so it's showing you the complete version, and hopefully you have a better idea what the introduction, conclusion, body paragraphs are all like. And so far, any questions? No, then I think today I want to give you a break earlier, okay, because after a lot of mental work, okay, so have a break and then we will work on something different. Okay. So a 15-minute break first. Right, sign the attendance sheet if you have it. Okay, so now we move on to a part that is very, very important to you guys. If you want to avoid plagiarism, and so you don't want to like spend a lot of effort writing a decent piece of essay and then given a fail grade, right? Just because people find that you have not really complied with the rules of citation or referencing or paraphrasing. And so we want to follow academic rules to avoid like being caught, right, as so-called stealing ideas. And so if we have time today at the end of the lesson, and actually tomorrow, we'll spend time on like working on paraphrasing, synthesizing, so more advanced writing techniques. All right, first of all, letting you know why you even need to cite. And so we have talked about what citation means, but you may wonder why this is so important. So in a piece of paper, actually, when you cite other people's sources, you are mentioning, okay, so this argument I use is not entirely from me, it's from others. So some may think, oh, does that mean people will think I cannot think of something new, right? So I have to use other people's ideas. It's not like that. In the academic world, when you cite, there are three benefits, right? So number one, showing your familiarity. Familiarity means with the field, right? People would know, you know what's going on in the field, right? So that's why you can cite, okay, so researcher A has mentioned that, or researcher B has done that, right? So showing that you know what's going on. And credibility, meaning your ideas would be more convincing, right? So it's a lot better than having people think, oh, this is just from you. Okay? People don't really trust you unless you have your paper published somewhere, because it's like being reviewed. Right? People would check whether it's okay or not. So when you are citing published papers, your ideas suddenly become a lot more credible. Right? And you can imagine you talk to a friend, right, and say, oh, you should not eat this or that. And then your friend will wonder, why should I listen to you? Right? And then you mention, oh, Dr. Tiffany said that. Okay, so maybe it's like adding a little bit of credibility, right? But then even better would be like a nutritionist said that, right? So credibility is like this. And then originality, right? Meaning something new. Like here, I clarify this. We're not expecting your word to be totally original. Original here means new, right? But then when you're using other people's ideas, actually you are using a new way of interpreting the source. Right? So even the whole class here are writing on a topic on esports. And even if I give you the same 10 sources, for example, I would say all of you will organize the materials in your own way. Right? That is your originality. And that is why we want to look at your paper to see how you analyze your arguments. Instead of, like, if I'm interested in news esports, I just go to Wikipedia to check what it means, right? This may be for a different purpose. But when people are reading your paper, they want to see how you organize the sources, what arguments you are making. So it's not just plain factual stuff, right? So that is why citing can reflect a lot of your writing ability, your thinking ability, right? And of course, if you are interested or have a chance to do like a postgraduate, like a PhD level, then people would expect that your work to be original. You need to contribute to the field with something new, right, that no one has mentioned before. Right? Then this is like something different, but at least you will be able to show that your work is original by using your own way to analyze sources. And now I'm showing you some techniques of how you can cite, right? So one thing I want to reassure you is that you don't need to rote memorize all the citation rules. Although it would be better if you can automatically know a bit how to like cite sources. The thing is, you don't need to rote memorize, is that you can always go and check my slides, or you just Google how to cite something, right? And they tell you the answer. It's rather factual. But knowing how to do that automatically will help you proofread your work easier, right? And insert the citation more conveniently. Right? So I list out basically all the possible things you would come across in citation. Right? Remember, citation is like mentioning a source within your paper. Right? And imagine you want to have a direct quote. Right? Still remember what direct quote means? Yeah, use the, is it similar or exact same word? exact same word. Yeah, so this is super important. You know how to make a proper direct quote because you are using exact same words. And then if you don't really use the correct citation format, then people would definitely think you are plagiarizing. Okay, so direct quote is to keep the exact words of the source because usually for two reasons. Maybe the term is very, very special. You can rephrase it, but you don't want to rephrase it. All right, so you want to keep the meaning, like the feeling from that author. Right, then that's why you have the direct quote. Or sometimes it's a technical definition. It's very difficult to be paraphrased. Then maybe one or two times in your paper you can keep that. Right, so these are usually the two reasons. And please remember, use it selectively and sparingly. Selectively means you need to select when to use, not all the time. And sparingly means seldom. Don't use that too much. You can imagine if your paper is full of direct quotes, your teacher and your reader would definitely think like, do you even know how to write something yourself? So why do you need to just copy and paste something again and again without like proper flow? And it can be very difficult for your readers to understand your paper if you always have direct quotes. Yeah, because the writing style, the logic can be different, right, from different writers. Right? That's why sparingly. Use it only when necessary. Okay? And when you use direct quotes, and make sure you do not just have the last name and the year of publication, but also make sure the thing is in double quotation marks. Okay, yes, and that reminds me of one more thing. You can write it down somewhere. Sometimes when you want to emphasize a word, I know some students would use double quotation marks, right? But then in citation, at least in APA citation, I'm talking about APA, American Psychological Association format, double quotation marks has a special meaning. That means you're using a direct quote. Yeah, it's not for emphasis. So if you want to emphasize a term or a phrase, use single quotation mark. Okay, then don't overlap the use of the two things. And also, you need to include the page number, like where you find it. So two extra things: double quotation marks, page numbers, if you have a direct quote. So here is the example. Right? Imagine you are citing a source from McKinsey 2010. According to McKinsey 2010, right? So this is what you normally have already, the purple part, right? And then the information, the indirect approach is considered to be able to, so you find this term, the highlighted part, penetrate deeper, okay? Very useful, okay? Whatever the reasons, you want to keep that word exactly to your readers. So these two words would be embraced by the double quotation marks, and then right after the quote, you put the page number. Normally, right after the quote, not at the end of the sentence, unless the quote is at the end of the sentence. So two places you can put the page number. One is right after the quote, and the other, you see the or, is after the year of publication. Okay. So as long as you put the page number within the same sentence that you present the quote, it is normally okay. Yeah, so the two common ways would be after the quote and after the year of publication. Both are fine. And yeah, then a final part here is to remind you, sometimes you may be using like website information, although we don't always encourage website information because that can be something not academic enough. But maybe it's a newspaper article talking about something current, and no one has published something on that, and you use it. It's okay, like as long as it's relevant. Then on most websites they don't have a page number, right? Then you want to make a direct quote from the website. And what you do is you need to quote the paragraph number. And that is why here is the example. This one, Rajan and McEvoy, is the two authors' names from the website. And then comma, year of publication, comma. Instead of P dot standing for page, you write PARA dot. Okay, that stands for paragraph. You really need to count it. Right? I have seen like paragraph 40 or something. Websites can be like 2 lines as one paragraph, right? So if you want to make a direct quote from a website, then count the paragraph number. And okay. So here I have explained to you when you use direct quotes, right? Just like when you think something is very, very useful, interesting, or something that is hard to be changed, the technical definition, then you may use it. But it is often discouraged in the academic writing. Discouraged means if you use it too much, right? So don't overuse it. And I show you one example. You can read it quickly and think whether it is a good literature review. Why not? So the next page here, a bit of quite a lot of words, but you don't need to understand every single thing. Just get a feeling from this. To tell your classmates what's wrong with it after you get some ideas. They make the quotes in blue, right? And as a teacher, you can imagine when a teacher read this, right, then they would think, okay, so you're just being lazy, right? Why don't you use your own words? And the quotes, people would judge whether they are really words or phrases that cannot, or they are really difficult to be paraphrased. But obviously, these are just like common English words, right? They are not like all technical. Of course, you may want to keep place names like Africa, Caribbean is fine, right? But then you don't need to direct quote the entire sentence. So sentence after sentence. And after direct quotes, what people normally do is at least add some elaboration. Explain why it is here. Right? Like if you quote something from Steve Jobs, at least explain why this quote is relevant to your paper. Right? So don't leave a quote just there. And so this is not good. Don't do that. I'm exaggerating, but it's trying to show you. Don't overuse it. But the weight of citation is actually correct, right? Like last name, year of publication, page number, and then double quotation marks. Like 4 things. Sometimes if you write in a format like this researcher explains that, right? So it's like a subject, verb, object order, right? Then we present it like this. And then you can look at the end of this paragraph, right? So we will put a quote like this and then have a citation at the end of the sentence. Right? It is also okay. So in your paper, people will see different ways of citations. It's not always at the end of a sentence, or it's not always according to. Right? We have many different ways of presenting it. Then it's like this. And do you see that if it is at the end of a sentence, the full stop is after the bracket? It's not right after the sentence. Okay, so here is some details we may want to look at. Okay, so just to remind you to avoid too many direct quotes. All right, then here you can see that in your handout. If there are like 2 different sources that mentioning the same information you want to cite, right? So like for this piece of information, you find 2 different sources, right, talking about that. And then you want to include both of them because you want to show to your teacher, I've read a lot, right? So I'm not just referring to one source, I can refer to 2 sources or even 3 sources. So what you do is, you still remember, right? Last time I told you, do you arrange the 2 different sources according to the year of publication or alphabetical order? Yes, alphabetical order of the last name. Okay, so here is the example. You check out the bracket. Here we have 3 different sources, right? And then it's not really about 2015 or 2012. Okay, so it's about G is before GA, like if it is both G, then GA or GU, right? And then S. Okay, so 3 of them. And then for each of them, they are separated by semicolon, a dot and a comma, semicolon. And then the full stop at the end. So when people see this, they know this piece of information here Right? So you actually use your own words to rephrase, but then this idea has been mentioned in these three different sources, and you have read them, right, to kind of see the pattern. Right? These three have similar findings. Right? And this is a good thing. We would mention more like tomorrow called synthesizing. Synthesizing is like you can combine patterns from different sources, maybe similar patterns. In this case, would be similar patterns. In some cases, different patterns. Like when you want to show a topic is controversial, you may say, although some people mention this, then you quote, maybe one person said this, right? Directly have a bracket after this, and then comma, and then other people say something differently, and then another source. So this time would be two different citations, but then within the same sentence. Again, people will see that, oh, so you know different people are talking about different things. And then here we always see like one author, like then one last name, year of publication. Then what about when we have like two authors? Do you still remember how we combine them? Yes, we use the N, and when it is within the bracket, we use the symbol N. When it is in a sentence, like according to the two people, we would need to spell it out. Okay, and then what about three or more? Okay, three or more meaning at least three. Then good news, you don't need to spell out everything. In the past, actually, we need to. Right? So, but then in the latest edition of APA, they make it simpler. So only mention the first author's last name. And then after that, you see the example here. The first author's last name is Crook. And then make sure you spelled it correctly. Etal, E-T-A-L, dot. Don't miss out the dot. E-T-A-L here, I think is from Latin or something, right? Meaning and colleagues and his team, right? So that is why you can skip mentioning all the rest of the names. Okay, so the first one, Crook, Etal, dot, okay, and then the year of publication. Basically everything the same. So if it is within a sentence and you say Crook, Etal, dot, year of publication, they said that, argued that. If it is at the end of the sentence, then you start the bracket, and then last name Crook, Etal, dot, comma. Normally we just have comma, but the dot is always here after AL. Okay, so it's like a short form or something, treat it like that. Like, for example, E dot G dot, we always have a dot. Okay, so here ETAL dot, and then the year of publication. Okay, so here I'm giving you possible ways of mentioning a source in your paper. Just now I said you don't always put the bracket at the end of a sentence, right? And you don't always want to use according to, that can be boring. So I give you at least 5 different ways of presenting, like I have been using a source, right? And you want to show that I'm citing something. Like this one is difficult to understand. I use actual examples and we go back to this slide later. So 5 different ways. Imagining I'm using a source called Aitken 2011. And one way is to say, according to this author, comma, and then you continue with your information. Or you say, as stated by this person, comma, and then SVO, the sentence. Like, please remember that because some students will say, like, as stated by him, and then continue with a sentence, but then it's a phrase. It has to be separated. Okay. And for the underlying part, you can always change it to a different verb. Okay, so you can say as stated by, and what other verbs can you use, by the way? Yes, as claimed by, as more, shown by, yes, at least one more, explained by. And so here is actually passive voice. So always at the passive form, because it's like as it was stated by. The meaning is like this, but you can simply say as stated by. And then number 3 here, as this person points out. So this one is active voice, right? So that's why remember a set phrase. Okay? As this person, this researcher points out. Again, here you can just change it to anything. As this person states, right? As this person explains, yes, right? Or explains, illustrates, suggests, comma. Okay, then you continue. And then this one, I think all of you know that already, like simple SVO structure. This person, and then year of publication points out that. Again, change it to anything, mentions, explains, shows that. Okay. Present tense, past tense, okay. And then number 5, in the opinion of this person, comma. Right, so you see 1, 2, 3, 5. Right, that part is like separate, and then you have the full sentence afterwards. So here is just showing you a variety of, these are what we call signal phrases, right, to signal your readers, I'm using a source, right? And this piece of information is going to be convincing. It's not just my personal opinion. Okay, so use them flexibly. And it's just actually here, but then I think using examples is easier to read and understand. And then some details I had to mention, like the publication year should always appear in brackets, right? And sometimes it's like separately in bracket, and sometimes within the sentence. See, like this, the last name together with the year of publication in bracket, right? So it can be just the year in bracket or together with the author in bracket. But whatever the format, the year is always within a bracket. And the punctuation mark is after the closing bracket, meaning like if you have to put a comma, like the example just now, the year of publication, bracket, comma, right? Or you put a full stop, it's also bracket, full stop. It's after the bracket. And then here, one thing you can highlight or circle, when you read a source that maybe, I don't know, too old, or, for some website articles, they don't even show you which year they published that article. So maybe it's like forever there, right? It's some article written by a certain organization. You cannot find the year of publication. Then what you write is N.D. standing for no date. Okay? So just replace that part, the part you are supposed to put down the year with N.D. no date. And people will know this is a source without you being able to identify the year of publication. Okay. And reporting verbs, I kind of test you a little bit. Okay? And it is important that you know more because you want to use a greater variety in your paper. So reporting verbs would be like just now we mentioned some of them, explain, mention, state, right? And then we can actually arrange them in many, many different groups. So let's see, like very quickly, can you just talk to your classmates, like as many as you can come up with? Okay? Try not to cheat by looking at the handout or something. You can use the ones that I've already mentioned, like state or point out. These are reporting verbs. But I want to test you, like already, how many reporting verbs are already in your brain? Okay? Just now, talk to your classmates. You can write that 2 slides here, 2 slides later here. Write out as many as possible here. At least 10, okay? You can start thinking from like alphabetical order, right? A, argue. What? Yes, yes, that is a good one. Mm, yes, that's good. Describe, right? Describe the neutral. Oh, okay. Not very common you can use it because not many discoveries, but yeah, you can write it down. Yeah. Yes, yes, very good. Oh, so your vocabulary bank is actually quite big, right? So yeah, we can skip this part. So just kidding. Here you can see that when you use different verbs, right, they're different, I mean, meaning, okay, and state is neutral, right? And then argue is pretty strong. And belief is like you can think, oh, it's his personal belief, right? Maybe not everyone thinks in that way. So when you use a verb, actually they convey different meanings. So I show you more. Okay. And I take a photo. Put that on your desktop, okay, on your computer. Feel free to use the things that are useful to you. Some, I mean, basically all are academic, and some words that I think you should definitely learn, like a substantiate, right? It's like you have strong evidence, right? And then substantiate something, support, right? Like support, it's not just mean support each other, right? This evidence supports the claim. And then concur is a very formal version, meaning agree. Yeah, I concur with you. You don't say that to a friend. It sounds very weird. I concur with you. I don't concur with you, right? So I agree, I disagree. And then confirm, very strong, right? And some would be more neutral, like highlight, emphasize, like emphasize, and then stress, underline. Underline does not just mean you underline something. When you underline, actually, you're trying to emphasize it, right? So here is as a meaning, emphasize things, and then justify, evaluate, criticize, illustrate, right? Many. But then one of them, yeah, I put it here, claim. I heard some of you also use the word claim. Be careful when you use this, and don't just randomly choose from the list. You say, oh, Tiffany gave me this, and then I just randomly put it in my paper. Do try to check how people use them, any special meanings. I at least check from the dictionary, right? Like a sentence, how people use it. I use this word claim as an example. Imagine there is a guy, oh, there is no, wait, don't be afraid. Okay, there is a guy standing here. And then he told me, he just talked to me and said, oh, I'm very smart, And then after I heard that, I report this to you all. And I said, this guy claimed that he's very smart. Can you feel that I agree or disagree? I concur or I do not concur. Okay. So I actually have doubts. Like he claims that, right? So yeah. So meaning I didn't say I doubt it. I just say he claims it. So when you use the word claim, like the researcher claims his finding is very important. So actually you're not just reporting this researcher's finding. You don't really believe in that. Yeah. So actually there are subtle meaning. Don't randomly use a verb. Like people will say, oh, so you don't really believe in him. Then why do you keep saying his finding is convincing or something, right? It can be a little weird in that case. If you think this researcher believes in something strongly and you also believe in him, you can say argue. Argue is okay. Yeah. So no negative meaning in that sense. And then, or sometimes you just use neutral words like state. Yeah. So these are safe. Okay, neutral meaning. Right? He stated that, he indicated that, while something would be more subtle, like this part. Yeah, so imply is like you don't say it explicitly, just like I doubt that guy, but then I don't say it directly. That means I imply something. or posit, suggest, is like propose something. So this is very useful when you see a paper, the researcher is still on the stage of exploring stuff. Right? So the finding is not like a confirmed theory. And you say maybe he proposed a concept, or he posited something, or he hypothesized. Right? So he make a hypothesis, just like we do an experiment, we make hypothesis, but we're not 100% sure whether it's true or not. Right? So these contains meanings of a bit of doubt and uncertainty. And that is why all verbs have different meanings. And one more thing, this part, the bottom left corner, useful verbs for you to challenge others, or when you mention counter arguments. So some people may challenge that, or may contend that, so they disagree with you pretty strongly. Then you can then argue against them and say, well, the claim is not totally valid because I think in a different way, right? So feel free to use them. And now, well, this one is something a little difficult, but I try to explain so that you understand what it is. Has anyone here heard of the term secondary source? No, that's good. Then we explain it entirely. But I think you have read a journal article, right? You have experienced reading something. Then have you ever seen that journal article cite another source, an earlier source? Right, you did. And then what if you, so here is the case. You are reading this 2016 article. So of course, the more recent one by Hasanov. And then Hasanov mentioned an older source in his paper, right? And then you find, like, he mentioned this article and the claim is quite interesting. You want to use it in your paper. So in this case, you are not directly reading this 2012 article. You are reading this through the 2016 article. Right? So what we need to do is we cannot just directly cite 2012 here or cite this 2016 here. Okay? Both will be incorrect. What we do is we use a longer version here. So in the bracket, we first cite the older one because we want to use this information, right? So this older one, the last name Trottier, and then 2012, comma, add this phrase, as cited in. This is a set phrase, remember this. As cited in, that means as being mentioned in. But don't change this verb. Okay, we must keep this as cited in. And then the one that you are reading. Okay, so it's always the old one as cited in the new one that you are reading. And not the other way around. I see students reversing the order sometimes randomly. Then people will be clear that you haven't actually read this 2012 directly. You see this from 2016. Okay? So of course, if you get a chance to read that original article, just go ahead to do it, especially if it is not too old. But sometimes, they may be mentioning a very classic theory, maybe from 1990. You don't want to just check out that source directly, or it can be difficult to get it, then use this kind of format. Okay? And we can also put it like this, Trottier, and then bracket 2012 reported that. Normally, if we don't have the as cited in, it's simply Trottier and then bracket 2012, close the bracket, reported that, right? So now we just add one more part, as cited in the thing that you're reading. Okay? So it looks long, but actually the concept is this. Like you're reading something that mentioned an older source and you want to use it. And here, and notice I use it just like direct quote sparingly. Don't use it too much because your teacher again will question why you are so lazy. You don't find that old source directly. And sometimes readers will have a doubt because you are kind of trusting that this Hasanov 2016 is interpreting the old source correctly. Sometimes they may have their own bias, right? And that is why people don't always encourage this use. We don't want to believe in just one person, what they are saying, right? So if possible, just check out the original source. Right? That is what it means. And then, okay, so just showing you different verbs and addressing one common question. Right? Some of you may wonder when we should use past tense, when we should use present tense, when we are citing a source. So what would you do? Past tense or present tense? whatever you say, I would say is correct. Okay. So actually, both are acceptable depending on what you want to express. So before I explain anything in detail, a quick tip is use one tense consistently if you're not sure. Okay, so just keep using past tense. No one will challenge you. You're obviously citing something from the past. Yeah, past tense, I would say it's like 99.99% is correct. Yeah. So present tense is also okay if you want to say something that is still true. Right. So he did a study in 2020, but then I think his argument is still true. So that is why I say Chen and Hu, 2008, right? This last example here, argued that it is okay because he did this study in the past. This is an old source. But then when I use present tense, I actually imply that I believe that this is still correct. Or he's talking about a phenomenon, right, or a theory or a definition that people still accept, right? Then it is okay. But then if you use past tense, then you are just highlighting, maybe a certain methodology, right? Then almost definitely you would use past tense. They collected data, they recruited participants, then always past tense. So that is why past tense, I would say, the safest, right? And use it consistently. Only that, maybe I add one more thing. Sometimes you may want to use present perfect tense. I didn't put it here because I don't want to complicate things, but I won't say present perfect tense is not acceptable. We use that sometimes when we conclude, right, everything, or we want to summarize different findings. So I may mention Chen and Hu argue this, and then Smith believe in something differently. And then so the researchers have currently studied something. Yeah, then I would just summarize what they have shown. And then it is okay to use present perfect tense. Yeah, you don't point out specifically any researcher. You want to summarize findings, and you can use present perfect tense. Okay, now we move on to another citation skill. Now this is end of text. Right? We call that a reference list normally. And so we have actually addressed most of the tricks within the paper that you're writing. Then after that, you will have a reference list. And then these are some possible formats. I just look at that. I mean, maybe later I'll give you some practice to do. Okay. And when you are trying to write one, you'll find that it's really challenging. When you look at it, you find, oh, it's so simple. Okay. So we will later get to try that out. Again, I give you examples directly. Right here, you see, normally we will have journal articles, right? And we also have academic books or edited books. Here is the actual example. So follow this slide. Okay. You can always have this slide ready with you. And then when you are referring to maybe I have a reference of an academic journal, just follow exactly this format, but then you replace your own author, yeah, and change the year of publication to something else. And so use this as a reference and change the parts correspondingly. Okay, and that is why I said that earlier, you don't need to rote memorize anything. You just follow the rules. But then if there is something other than this slide, I've listed out the most common things: journal articles, books, newspapers, websites. But if you happen to read something like a report, right, so not very common, but maybe you need that, then just Google APA reference, right? Then people will give you hint, right? Maybe APA reference report, right? Then they will show it to you. Right? I still do that sometimes, right? Because I kind of know what it is like, but I want to make sure it's 100% correct. Then I'll check this. And here, very quickly going through this with you so that you know what the different colors are referring to, and you know how to replace that. So here is a journal, academic journal with DOI. DOI is treat this as a link. Right? You see the purple part here at the end, HTTP and then DOI. DOI is like a link for more recent journal articles. Right? It's like another way that people can access that easily. Right? But then for older journal articles, they don't provide DOI to them. Right? That is why you only find DOI in more recent articles or in some articles. And without DOI, you don't need that. Okay, but I will later explain this one. Okay, the first one. So you may, in the main text, do you still remember? Here, let's count it. How many offers we have for this one? The first three, yes. Then can anyone try to write down maybe somewhere in your handout or talk to your neighbor? Like if it is within your text, the citation, how you would present this? Like according to, then how would you write it down? Three people? Still remember? Okay. So just the first one, right? At least you remember this. And then do we write out according to this first one that's starting with D, comma, T dot C dot something? Do we write this like that? No, just last name. Yes, exactly. So that's why it is different. Yeah, in your main text, you say according to Delalo etal, ETAL dot, and then bracket 2011 bracket. That's it. Okay, so know the initial TC, yeah, and then you don't need to mention the other two writers. And now you see in the reference list, we need everything. Okay, last name, comma, initials. Okay, like if the person is the name is Chen Taiming. Okay, so Chen, comma, T dot M dot. Okay, so these are the first names. And sometimes, like John Smith, then it would be Smith, comma, J dot. Okay, so this is like the first name part. And then after the dot, can you see the comma as well? Right, so because it is the first one, there are still more. Okay, comma. And then next one, last name, comma. We need comma after last name. First name initial, dot, D dot, comma. Okay, so because it's still like not the end. So the first writer, comma, second writer, comma, and we always use a symbol here. And then last one, last name, comma, D dot. This time no comma. All right, the final one. And then year of publication, 2011 dot. Okay, so if in the future you have a journal article with DOI, and then there are two writers, what do you do? Yeah, just put the first one, comma, still need comma, right? And then N, the second one. That's it. Okay, so replacing it like this. And then the green part would be the article name. You can write it down. The green part is the actual article name. And then the blue part here is the journal name. Okay, so you find a journal of psychology. Okay, so journal is like you have a magazine, right? I guess you have more experience reading magazines than journals. Okay, so the magazine name is like the journal name. And then when you flip through the magazine, one particular article, that there is a title, then that is the green part. Okay, so the exact article name is here, green part, and then journal name, blue part. Do you see that the blue part is in italic form? Yeah, a little to italic. So we need to make that. Journal name, italicize it. One more thing needs to be italicized is the 145 here. 145. This is the volume number. VOLUME. It's volume. Right? So it's like a way to identify which article it is. You will be able to find that when you see a journal. Okay, so they will tell you the volume number. So this part also italic. Just two things: journal name, volume number, italic. And then right after volume number, the 3 in the bracket is issue number. Can you write it down? ISSUE, issue number. Issue number. Again, you will find that if you find a journal article. And then comma, the last part, page number. This part, the 151 to 172 is a page number. So how long this article is. Yeah. And then you don't really need to write down like VOL, like 145, and then issue 3, and then page or P.151. Like the reason why you don't need all those information, just all the numbers, is that APA is so standardized that people know after journal name, it must be volume number. Within the bracket, it must be issue number. And the last part of digits must be page number. And so that is why you don't need all those information. Like people can read that. And then the last link is the DOI link. Right? And actually, I have written it in the previous slide, right? But then you will find it easier to understand if you see the example. Okay. And then without DOI, an article without DOI is like older article, everything the same. Okay, last name, year of publication, like not just last name, actually full name, but then you don't spell everything. Actually, last name and then initials, and then year of publication, article name, journal name, volume number, issue number, page number. Can you please make a remark for this link? Optional. The second entry here, the NCBI, this link is optional. For any journal articles without DOI, you don't really need to add that. If you want to, it's okay, but you don't really need to. Okay, so if you don't add that, people won't say it's wrong. It's optional. But if there is a DOI, you need to add that. Okay. The reason why we don't put the website link is like there may be many different ways to find this article. And so it's not the only link anyway, but DOI is unique. It's like your ID, unique to the article. That's why it would be included. And then if it is a book, I like citing books most because it's the simplest. Okay, so last name, see this? It is only one writer, like Fletcher, comma, D.P. the first name initial, year of publication. This part the same. And then this one, the blue part, is the book name. Okay, just the book name. Because normally when we read a book, it's about referring to the whole thing. Okay, it's not just one particular chapter. If it is one particular chapter, then next one. Okay, so this one first. If you refer to the whole book, then book name. And put the book name in the italicized form, just like the journal name. You see that? Italicized. And then last one, publisher. Publisher name. Okay, so that's it for books. Then the next one is sometimes you read academic books and then you use only one of the chapters. Right? It's quite common, like when researchers want to publish their findings in a book, it's like different researchers will group their effort and collaboratively publish it. Okay? So that's why maybe you only want to use a certain chapter by certain researchers. Okay? We call that an edited books. Right? They do it together. This one is actually a bit difficult to cite. I'll explain it. So that chapter's authors first, and then year of publication. And then the green part, same as this one, the article name, right? Then what's here? Do you see the in? In will be in that book, okay? In. And then the two names here will be the editor's name. The editors, you can imagine they're like the big boss of this book. Right? They will edit the whole book. So you will see that on the cover or something of that book. And so but this one, very, very tricky. They will change the order of the name of editor like this. Not last name and then initial. It's initial and then last name. Because they want to like easily distinguish. This part is about editors' names. Right? So C.E. and then last name. N R. last name. And then bracket S. S means it's an edited book. Right? And if there are two editors, we will spell it as EDS. If there is only one boss, one editor, right, then no S. It's just ED. Bracket, comma. After that, the italic part is the book name, that edited book name. And they always have a certain edition. They write down the edition, 4th edition, 1st, 3rd edition, comma, where you find that chapter, because this is a particular chapter you're using. Yeah, that's why PP, this time you need PP. Okay, so that's why this one is the trickiest. PP dot, and then how long that chapter is. Close the bracket, full stop, publisher. Okay. So again, follow the patterns and then you fill in the blanks. Right? That's what you do. So two more. As for online newspaper or magazine article, something online, right? The thing is, we don't trust things online that much. That's why we need a little more detailed information. So the name part is the same, but then do you see that in the year part, we need something more? Yeah, month and also date. Yes. So you will after the year, comma, and a month date. We want to know exactly when this online article is being published. Yeah, so check the credibility easier. And then the article name, and then the online organization name. Maybe you find this from the online newspaper, the New York Times, or BBC News, or South China Morning Post, and this is the part you put it. Okay? And then after that, the web link. Right? We need the exact web link because we can check this directly. And then this one, maybe from online article, actually everything the same. Yeah. So two people, year, date, article name, the news article, and then the link. All right. So the most common things are here. Then there can be some minor tricks. Right? Like when you're trying that out, right, you will get to feel it. But if you master all these, I think you would already be able to deal with 90% of the references. Okay. So any questions so far? And then this is for you to know when you have a full reference list. I know like you sometimes can see they arrange it like this. Okay, so much information like volume number, issue number, right? Yeah, so I will just show you a journal article directly to let you trust that it's true. They will show it to you. You don't need to find that like it's usually on the first page of the journal article. We go to Google Scholar again. Any particular article we want to find? Something about English learning? Okay. Learning. Oh, there is a journal here. You see that? Yeah, journal of education something, and then there is a PDF. We can check. Okay, so I already see this. Can you see that the journal name is right here? And then the 10 here, volume number, bracket 4, issue number, page number, all here. All right, so don't worry too much. They even put it in something a little bit like APA, but they don't always do that, right? There are different formats. And you don't need to capitalize everything, by the way. All right, so this is one example. And what about this? You see 4 researchers, right? Here, 4 people. And in the main text in your paper, you want to cite it. What would you say? The first one? Which one is the last name? This one, G. Yeah, this one, Chinese. I always remember, like in Chinese, people may start with the last name, but actually in English, it's always the reverse. So you have to remember that. This one. And then, so Chinese, and then ETAL dot. And then find the year, 2005. Yes. And what about in the reference list? Then you would write it as Chinese, comma, F dot. And then last name, this one's last name is this, right? The whole thing. You know, that can be from his dad and his mom. Okay, so or you know, when people get married, right, they some ladies in foreign countries, they will have the last name like this. Okay, so the whole thing is last name. Okay, always remember this. And then Saunders is last name, Christian is last name. Okay, don't mix that up. And we find one more example. Okay, so like this. Journal name do not always start with journal of something. It can be review of or whatever. Let's see what this one is like. Okay, good. All right, we have a different format. So this one, you see the article name is called A Review of the Literature on Teaching Academic English to English Language Learners, right? And then here, year of publication, 2014. Do you see VOL? He will give you the volume number. And then this number, they don't say it's issue number, must be issue. And then page number, they give it to you as well. Right? So it's very easy to find, always on the first page, almost. And if they don't give you that specifically, the page number, you can just check it in the bottom part of the page. Right? They will show the page number. Right? So from this one, they have a URL. Right? It's a link. They said it's stable, then maybe you can quote it. They don't really have the DOI link. So this link is optional. Okay. And then how many offers are here? Like many. Right? You see, these are the offers. How many offers? Really? 4. Okay, 4. And in the main text, how would you cite? Which one is the first last name? DICRBO. Yes, this one, maybe Italian name. Okay, Diserbo, etal, ETAL dot, comma, the year is 2014. Yeah, and then in the reference list, you would write it as this one, comma, P dot A dot. Yes, right. So for some of them, foreigners, a lot of them don't like the middle names, so they don't spell the middle name out, right? But then all these are initials, so P dot A dot. Okay, and then comma, then last name here, Enstrom, comma, K dot A dot, comma, and then Baker, comma, L dot, comma, and last name, Rivera, C dot. Yes, and then bracket 2014. And then the article name would be a review of this one. And then the journal name. Okay, so here, I think we can find this this one, the journal review of educational research. Right, so you will find it always on the first few pages, all the useful information. And some people may have the questions like, what if for these writers, do I need to rearrange the order to alphabetical order? Right, the answer is definitely don't do that. Right, they will hate you if you do it. Right, because there is a reason why disable is the first one. Maybe she contributed the most. Right, and if you want to put it, after Enstrom is D, okay, so she will hate you. Okay, and then maybe sometimes the last one, in some schools or laboratories, it's always the boss. Okay, the name is at the end. Okay, it's like to support the paper. So there's a reason why they arrange it like this. Right, then don't change the order within the same article. We arrange the author's last names according to alphabetical order when we are using different sources. Okay? And sometimes you will see names like the last names are the same, disabled and disabled. It's totally fine. Some students find it very weird. It's super normal. There are many Chens. In China, there are many Wongs, many different last names. So it can be same last name. They can be brothers, right? They can be just happen to have the same last name. It's perfectly okay. Yeah, to have same last names. And if it happened like same last name in different sources, and then you have to arrange it again, find maybe the next one to check the alphabetical order. So now, all right, maybe it's time to show you this one. I hope they have the reference list. Yes, that's great. Do you see they show the reference list at the end? Yeah, so always like this, super long. So don't be a scholar if you are very determined, unless you are very determined. Okay, and anyone see some tricks here? So references, the references page. How do they arrange the reference list? Starting from, alphabet. I said don't change the order within the same source, but for different sources, you are actually arranging them according to alphabetical order. Okay, and so AD, right? So two ADs, then ADA, ADG, all right, and then AGAN. All right, so you don't need to put numbering for reference list. Right, so because we already know how it is arranged. It's not like according to the order you use in your main text. It's according to alphabetical order. And do you see a little bit of things here? Like for Adams, after the first line, it's like they have a tab button to make something a little inward, right? The second line always is a little inward. This one as well, after the first line, these are a little inward. And then the next one, these are a little inward. To let people more easily read, this is one entry. This is the second entry, third entry. Okay, so that is how we present the reference list. Right, and you now, I guess you understand the tricks here. Let's look at Adams. There's a last name, initial, year. And then what is reading mathematics? And then more than words can say. What is this? This is a name of an article, yes. And one more thing is you don't need to capitalize every single word, always the first word only. And after colon, you can have it capitalized again. After colon, after full stop. Okay? And then what is this italic part? Journal name. Yeah, so you see, you don't see journal of. Like not all journals start with journal of, just like not all newspaper with a newspaper of. Okay, there can be a newspaper name without the word newspaper. Okay, so this is a journal name. And then after this, you see 56. What is this? Volume number, also italic. And what is missing? Issue number, maybe because it's a very, very old source, 2003, right? Or this journal is not organized in like big journals way. They don't have many issues anyway. Yeah, so no issue number, right? And then just skip that. So, and then last one is page number. Yes, so you already know what happens. And let's look at one more. This one is the one I said is a bit tricky, edited books, right? So that's why it's longer. How many authors are here? 3. Yeah, so 3 last names and then year. And then what is this part? The introduction is, this word introduction is the, not yet the book name, but this one is this is a book chapter. So this is the chapter's name. Okay, so yes, in that book, they use the introduction part only. Yeah, so introduction, in, after in, what are these names? Yeah, editor's name. How many editors are there? 3. Yeah, 3 editors. Do you see that the initials first and then last names? Yeah, and so same for all 3. And then because there are 3 editors, we need to say EDS dot. Yes, very good. And then the italic part is the book name. Yeah, the overall book name. And then italic. And after that, edition of the book. Yeah, second edition, dot, comma. So what is this page range showing? Not the entire book, I guess, right? Just 6 pages. So it's only that chapter. Okay, that chapter's page length, 1 to 6. And then after that, what is it? Normally at the end, we write publisher name. And I think this article is a bit old because in the past, we need to also mention where the publisher is located in. Now we don't need that. Okay, so you can skip the city name, just directly write down the publisher name, which is Delta Systems or Center for Applied Linguistics. Okay, so it's actually all standardized. Right? If you don't know something, guys, for sure, I usually use 2 ways, Google or find some real examples. Right? Then you can just change your part of information accordingly. Okay, now let's move back to the PowerPoint. So that's why my next slide is showing you a little inward part. I guess now you understand what I mean. Right? So they want to add a bit of an inward after the first line in the reference list to show it is a separate entry directly and arrange all the references according to the alphabetical order. And so quite a lot to digest, right? And I hope you can try to apply that to a certain extent. So that is why I have prepared 4 different texts for you and test if you can write it down in the correct citation and reference format. Okay? So you can find that in your handout, PowerPoint handout. Text 1, text 2, text 3, and text 4. After you finish that, you can check the answers with your classmates and yeah, you can do it. Now, citation, remember, it's like in the main text. You can simply write down maybe that person said that. Feel free to use any reporting verb, okay, but you don't need that, right? Maybe according to, use the format according to, it's okay.